We Real Reels.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to We Real Reels, the monthly podcast where we review old movies to find out if they are good as we remember or if they scarily suck. I say that because this time it's a little different than the normal We Real Reels. This is a kind of a separate episode, a shorter episode for sure, without all the segments. We're just going to be doing horror movies. And we don't have the Grizzly Zay today or the Polar Devin. Today it's just your host, Panda Brandon, and the Koala Sam. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And for this little, small segment, we'll call it the horror hour, okay? We Real Reels, the horror hour. It's going to be longer than an hour, but we only review horror movies. That's because Sam really loves horror movies. Ain't that right, Koala?
Yes, sir.
What we're going to do today is House on Haunted Hill, the remake, not the original with Vincent Price, but the remake. I do want to apologize to you guys. I am new to this, so I'm trying to get the sound quality a lot better. You know, I'm working by myself. I don't have anybody doing this. I do it all by myself. So I'm getting the sound quality better. I know the first episode was kind of low. The second episode was up and down. And I'm going to try to promise you it's going to get better. I just don't know how fast it's going to get better, but it's going to get better. So I'm working on that. This podcast does contain spoilers and will be discussed at length. This is a mature content podcast, so be prepared for harsh language and awkward situations. All sound clips, music, and trailers are only used for review purposes and belong to their respective owners. And this podcast is also sponsored by The Collectors, your pop culture hub in Lebanon, Tennessee, 205 South Maple Street, Lebanon, Tennessee, 37087. And you can follow them at The Collectors Toys on Instagram and Facebook. All right, so today we're reviewing House on Haunted Hill. You ever watched this before started doing this review?
No, this is the very first time. I didn't grow up watching horror films, so there's a lot that I did not actually watch.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, this is going to be a shorter podcast. We don't have the segments here. We're just going to do straight to the horror movie review. Where you can watch this at is Blu-ray, DVD, or you can purchase it on some online streaming services because I couldn't find anywhere that was actually streaming this movie. House on Haunted Hill is directed by William Malone. He's also done some episodes from Tales of the Crypt, one titled Only Skin Deep. He did one called Fear.com, Masters of Horror, Fair Hair Child, and Parasomnia. You know any of those movies?
No.
Yeah, me either. This movie is starring Jeffrey Rush, Femke Jensen, Taye Diggs, Peter Gallagher, Chris Kattan, Ali Larter, Bridget Wilson, Max Parlish, Jeffrey Combs, and Lisa Loeb. This movie was released October 29th, 1999. Other movies that came out in October of 99 were From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Insider, Young Indiana Jones and the Trenches of Hell, Django Strikes Again, The Best Man, Boys Don't Cry, Children of the Corn, Isaac's Return, Don't Look Under the Bed from Disney, Superstar, Elmo and Grouchland. You ever seen any of those?
No, none of those.
Oh my God. Elmo and Grouchland was awesome. Okay, Elmo got sucked down in Grouch's trash can, and it was a whole world down there. And Elmo had to find a way to get out, and everybody was so mean in Grouchland. Poor Elmo.
I was a Barney girl. I did not ever watch Sesame Street.
Well, I did both. And then Don't Look Under the Bed was a Disney original, and it was about, I think it was imaginary friends who end up getting forgotten. They become the boogeyman. Yeah, pretty cool, weird premise, but it was pretty cool. It was this black guy who was this little girl's imaginary friend, and he started forgetting her. He slowly started changing into this scary creature.
And that's a Disney one?
Yeah, so it wasn't really scary. They could have done
can't go too scary with Disney.
But the remake of House on Haunted Hill made $40 million with a $19 million budget, and it was actually nominated for Worst Remake.
Dang.
But it lost. It lost. I forget what movie it did lose to. So let's start this review off with the plot. A millionaire with theatrical tendencies, Stephen Price, and played by Jeffrey Rush, invites a number of people to stay in a vast, creepy building that used to be an insane asylum. Stephen, accompanied by his bitter wife, Evelyn, which is played by Femke Jensen, offers $1 million to anyone who can stay the whole night without leaving out of fear. When Stefan and Evelyn become trapped with their guest, they quickly realize that the house really is haunted, and the spirits dwelling within are very angry. Open up to the opening credits, which I thought were way too long.
Let me go ahead and tell you, I stopped at it 2 minutes and 49 seconds worth of intro.
Yeah, and it was like some clay animation slowly opening, just weird stuff happening, pictures of crazy people. Yeah, it was real long.
It's too long. Normally that's at the end of the movie. I don't know why they did it at the beginning. Old movie.
Well, and then the real movie starts to open to the doctor doing surgery in a madhouse.
Ooh, I noticed. So you noticed the two nurses and the doctor. Both of them, the nurses, had masks on, but the doctor did not. The one that's actually performing the procedure did not have a mask.
He doesn't practice social distancing.
I guess not.
But he's doing surgery on a patient, a mad patient, because we're to assume that this is an insane asylum. He doesn't put any anesthesia on him. And while he's performing this, he's hearing and he's seeing people banging on the glass above them. I guess the observatory window. And they're banging on the door, and he doesn't do anything. He just continues his surgery.
My first question when I started seeing this was, where's all the security people at? Like, how did these crazy people just walking around everywhere without any sort of security or nurses or something putting them back in their rooms?
I'm assuming they're dead.
How'd they get all that? They just kill them with pencils?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody must have left somebody's cage open, and they released the rest of them, and took out security, if they even have security. But the doctors, I mean, did he not realize this was happening? Or the people upstairs, is that something that normally happens? He's just like, that's okay, I'm going to continue my surgery.
That's kind of what I got from him, since none of them stopped.
Well, we go to the receptionist guy. He's like looking down, doing his thing, and he sees one of the patients in front of him just looking at him, and he's like, yeah, what are you doing here? And they previously showed us him sharpening this pencil before, foreshadowing what's going to happen with this pencil here. And so they showed us that, and he looks up at this girl and is like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go back to your room. And just that look of like, you're nonsensical, you knucklehead, how'd you get out of there? Well, there ends up being more of them surrounding the door that he goes into, and they bust open the window and then break in on him.
Which I noticed, when they broke the window, he immediately fell forward like somebody hit him in the back of the head. He was just, that whole scene killed me.
So yeah, he had some bad reactions to a window being broken, as if somebody, popped him in the back of the head, like you said. But one of the inmates ends up getting a hold of a whole cluster, a fistful of pencils that he was sharpening. I guess he keeps a bunch of them sharpened, just in case one of them breaks. He don't have to resharpen immediately. He can, just grab another one of his sharpened pencils. Well, one of the inmates gets a whole handful of those, and he stabs the guy through the neck. And this is, one of the orderlies. I guess he's a receptionist or something. He's doing paperwork, but he gets stabbed through the neck with his pencil, and we see the pencils on the other side of his neck. These pencils have grown in some inches when they entered his neck, because the inmate still had a hold of them where he had grabbed them, but they had protruded through the guy's neck, and we could see him on the other side. You got any information on how pencils can grow through a neck?
Bad CGI.
And so the doctor finally realized that people are breaking in. They're starting to tear apart the nurses. They're getting to him, and he hits the button, the switch. He pulls this switch that locks the place down and proceeds to incinerate everyone inside, burns everyone alive.
So is that where it got? Because I did not get that feel. Because the whole entire movie, it was talking about how they burned alive. I'm like, how did the place get caught on fire in the first place?
Yeah, I guess that was one of the safety mechanisms. If something happens just like this, you hit a switch, man, you're not going to get it out. So you might as well make sure none of these crazies make it out to the public.
I guess so, because I watched this through twice, and I was like, how did this place get caught on fire in the first place? But I did notice that the lady, the nurse that had the mask on, was recording. She stayed recording through the whole entire thing until they started attacking her. So she's seen them attacking the doctor and the other nurse that was putting a hand over her, but she just stayed recording. She had no self-preservation, nothing.
She is a dedicated nurse and camerawoman. You know, she had to do what was best for the doctors at the time.
I guess so.
And she got paid a lot of money. I think it was, $1 an hour back then. After that scene of the madhouse, we are introduced to Mr. Price, Mr. Stephen Price.
Ooh, can we back up real quick?
Okay.
So, I guess you didn't notice this, but I knew this was an older movie because you see some titties. So, they had the girl underneath the water, and they just ripped open her shirt. And then there was another scene where you seen them a second time. So I started counting. Each time we see some titties, I'm going to tell you how many times, because it was multiple times.
Now, we have a titty count, okay? And that seems appropriate for horror movies, because there's always some good titties in horror movies. But we're introduced to Stephen Price, who owns a theme park. We already get the feel that he dislikes his wife, who throws little stabs at her here and there. But he's very confident in the safety of his theme parks, and for good reason, because he's never lost a single customer. He's in the midst of an interview when he gets on this elevator that leads to the roller coaster that he's talking about, and he says he's never had an accident, nothing's ever happened, and then strange things starts happening on this elevator. They start hearing noise, nuts and bolts going loose. They're looking at the bottom window, and they start seeing the elevator just drop. And it's shaking, and then the camera guy drops his camera. The interviewer drops her mic. They're freaking out. And he's like, "This has never happened before." When the elevator, or the window at the bottom shows them colliding with the ground, it actually stops, and then shows the name of the roller coaster that they're about to get on. And it was all a fake little trick here, which was pretty good, because first watch, I was like, "Oh dang, these people are gonna die real quick. They're done for." Mm-hmm. And they go ahead and get off the elevator, and he's like, ha ha ha, but from here, things are going to get real scary.
Which I will say, he was a pretty good actor to doing that, because I did not suspect anything this whole entire time. But with that being said, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's just not logical, putting, maybe 5 to 10 people into that elevator, depending on how much they weigh, to go on top of the ride to get there. I feel like that ride would take so long just to get started.
I think I assumed this. They never led any clues to believe this, but I think that's just only the Fast Pass people. The Fast Pass only get to get this special treatment of the elevator crashing, or a little treat of the elevator itself. Everybody else has to take the stairs and ride themselves up.
That would make more sense. He did mention that there was 15-year history, never lost a customer. So he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, and the cameraman looks like somebody from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That one dude. He had a bunch of tricks and fakes on his rides, because he was talking to, I don't know who he was talking to, but one of his assistants comes up and is like, "We got a problem." And as the roller coaster is going on, one of the rails in the roller coaster breaks off and sends one of the carts just flying off into the distance. And as the next riders are scared, they seen what happened. They're terrified and they're like, "Oh crap!" Well, the rail reconnects itself. Mm-hmm. And then not Vincent Price, but Stephen Price looks back and is like, "What's the problem?" And it turns out the problem is just one of the dummy dolls for the first roller coaster that flew off the rails I think he's losing his arm. Yeah, he kept losing his arm. So he's like, just make him a screamer and do this to him, blah, blah, blah. So he plays a lot of tricks on his people, which I guess is good for a horror ride, because, I would be freaked out if I saw the coaster in front of me.
After you see it logically, don't you think that coaster's gonna break a lot? How's he got this much money? Or how are they gonna reconnect the coaster?
The first one might be a real dummy coaster, and it's not made of much metal as the first one is, like heavy and safety protocols as the first one is. I imagine it's just the railing is all the metal. The rest of it's probably just plastic and lightweight
that's
stuff.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you really get that fear in there for sure.
That's true.
Once in a lifetime ride.
You gonna talk about how this is actual Hulk?
That would have been one of my facts, but I'll go ahead and say it now.
My bad.
The roller coaster they're on. Do you remember the name of the roller coaster they're on?
Yes, it is. Let's see, Terror Incognita.
Terror Incognita. And it's actually, they tried to film at Disneyland in California, but they wouldn't let them film there. So Universal said, hey, you can film here, and they had the Incredible Hulk ride. And so they did that instead. So Disneyland, you're dicks. You should have let them use a 15-minute video, 50-minute shot. Come on.
If that.
Yeah, but anyways, Universal let them use it, and they end up using the Incredible Hulk ride, which looks kind of fun, but I'm always terrified to go ride it. So there's that in the fear specter. So it's already scary. But he has a phone call with his wife, or not his wife, his assistant or somebody, and he tells him to get the guests that she had on a list and shred it. Shred the list that she wanted, all the people that she wanted to invite, and he's going to select his own people to invite.
See, that's my thing. I want to know the background. I know you're not into the background, but how do they just become to hate each other so much that he is just wanting to invite these random people that he knows would piss her off? Like, how do you just become to hate your spouse like that?
Well, if you don't start picking up the living room like you're supposed to, you're going to find out. I guess. Next, we see that all the guests are arriving. They're all coming in these nice fancy cars, these limousines. But they're all opening the invitations in the car on the way there.
Do you know what it states?
No. What does the thing say?
It took me a minute because I kept pausing and writing it down and then starting it up. It says, Stephen H. Price commands you to attend a very unique birthday celebration for Miss Eleven Stockard Price. Terror, humiliation, perhaps even murder, with $1 million paid to those that survive the entire night inside the walls of the house on Haunted Hill. I need my glasses.
Okay. Well, that was pretty good. I didn't even think about even checking that, but that was the invitation that all of the guests are opening up in the car. I mean, do they need to reread it, or what? Why are we seeing everybody open this invitation here? Like, how did you get in this car to get here? Did you say driver drive, and then they're like, hey, here's a note for you?
I think it's just setting the scene for us to be able to somewhat read.
I feel like they could have did it a better way, because maybe they could have did it at each person's house if they had to show everybody opening up. All I needed was one person to open it up. And then I would assume that everybody opened it up and they were here. So I didn't even need that scene.
Yeah, that's true. But I want to say, how desperate are these people for $1 million? Like, they don't even know, any of them.
Excuse me, ma'am. You don't have to be desperate for $1 million, okay?
I mean, you can... My thing is, they had to have known this was fake. They was just like, because also it doesn't state where these people live at. So are they spending money to fly from their house to here?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly indeed. Well, we have a few more, actually, facts about these characters that Koala has deep dived on. And let's dive a little more into these characters. Koala, what do you got for me?
So Donald W. Blackburn is the MD. And then Melissa Margaret Marr is the celebrity. And then Eddie Baker, he introduced himself as former pro baseball player. And then Jennifer Jensen, executive VP of Lamthrop International Pictures. Subtitles.
That's what's up. I appreciate for that information. But we meet Watson Pritchett. He's the owner of the house. His family owns the house here. And he's telling people to get in the house. And he's very adamant about getting people in the house. Hurry and get in the house because...
Panicky, Phil.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird. I think he's getting paid to, escort these people to the house so that he can leave. And they walk to the house on foot because the driveway is out, is what Pritchett says. With
one flashlight. You would think he would know how many people are coming and be prepared. Like, he's going to make how much money and he can only bring one flashlight. And then no one panicked when the house just lit up.
Yeah, we do have this dramatic scene where they show the house and it's well lit. But the girl still shines a flashlight on it. Like, what are you doing? That flashlight ain't doing that. It's already lit like a lighthouse is shining on it or something. But Watson is staying by the door when everyone else walks in. They're amused by it. They're looking at the stained glass, all the decorations. Everybody's seeing everything and just walking around while Watson, man, he ain't taking a chance. He's staying right at that door.
He's staying. I noticed that. You would think that you would notice the person being panicky and then also staying at the door. But no one paying attention.
He's still there. Everybody else is having fun. We've got one girl who is filming everything. Everybody else is just checking everything out. It's a new place. It's exploring everything. But nobody notices old Watson over there. Boy, he's still just by the doorway, making sure he don't go any farther. He don't like this place for some reason. He knows something about it that we don't know just yet.
You would think that they would do their research. If I got invited to go to some house to stay overnight, you would think you would do as much research as you can to the person who's inviting you to this place, but also to the house itself. Because I'm sorry, if I found out it was an asylum, I am not going. I am not into ghosts.
Or you do no research and you just bring that 9 with you, okay? That Beretta, that 92FS, you know what I'm saying? Is that my gun? That is my gun. That's that Chris Tucker right there. Well, Mrs. Price comes in and asks who everyone is, and then the stained glass breaks. And Tate Diggs' character, what is Tate Diggs' name in this movie?
Eddie Baker.
Eddie Baker comes and saves the day. He pushes Miss Price out of the way just in time, and she gets cut.
Which is so dumb as hell. He's running into the glass and pushes her onto a table that is still underneath the glass window that broke.
Well, at least she's on the ground now.
Like, that don't make no sense. They could have did that better.
Well, she gets pushed to the ground after being not the ground, but the table, and after being saved, and she tells, "Get off me, you pervert!" And he just saved your life, lady. Come on.
But she rich.
I guess so. And at this time, Price shows up. He tells people about the house, and he tells the people to let the games begin. And it's like, wait a minute, did you plan for that to break? Man, people could have got hurt for real.
Yeah, she did get scratched in her face.
Yeah, she got cut right on her face, and she's bleeding out. I'm just playing. She ain't bleeding out. It was a small scratch. Watson is asking about his money, about getting paid for bringing all these people up here, man. And he's like, hey, come on, money now, come on, I gotta go. Price says his wife is hungry for money, and that the people that are there aren't the ones that are invited, because Price doesn't even know the people that are invited.
He thinks it's Evelyn this whole time.
Yeah, he thought Evelyn messed up his list, and she thinks that he messed up her list.
Which, I mean, he did mess up her list originally.
He did do that. He did purposely try to mess that up. Price and his wife, we already get the feeling that they hate each other, and they want each other to die, but they just can't pull the trigger.
Really awkward situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like going to a game night or something. It's like going to a game night with family and friends, and, just the couple's arguing or something. It's weird stuff. Never been a part of that, but, something like that. But Price offers everyone $1 million if they last until dawn. Pritchett really wants out now. He don't care about the $1 million. He's like, hey, give me my money you promised me. I'm going to be out.
Which they started talking about his grandfather and father, because they both died. The grandfather died in his sleep in Miami, and then the father died in a construction accident in this house. So they were really suspicious on this house.
So he had good reason to be worried.
Yes.
Well, we're introduced to everybody now. Everybody goes around and says their name. We have Donald, Melissa, Eddie, Jennifer. They're all introduced, and then Pritchard's freaking out. He's doing a terrible job at acting here. He's more of a comedic actor. Do you know the guy who plays Pritchett?
Yes, his name is Chris Caton, Kattan.
Chris Caton. He was in that Night at the Roxbury with Will Ferrell, and he's a funny dude, but I guess in a serious moment, you just don't take him seriously. He's telling Price, I want my money now, goddammit! And I just don't believe he's angry. I'm like, this dude is funny. I'll be laughing at him in this moment. But before he can leave, the house itself shuts itself up with steel sheets of metal over the doors, over the windows, everything. It's just complete lockdown with everyone inside.
Which I feel like Watson did a terrible job right here, because he knows that can happen. So he came into the room instead of standing by there. But he paused. He didn't just immediately start running to the door until last minute and the door shuts on him. But you would think that he would know another exit. But instead he's just not doing anything.
But once they do close, he does start doing something. He starts cutting his own hands up.
Gosh.
Trying to get out of the place.
And that don't make sense, because he's hitting the window, but he has a long sleeve jacket on. Why would you not elbow it to have some sort of protection on? But he's just destroying his hands.
Yeah, he don't really care for his own safety. Or maybe he's just panicky. He's like, I gotta get out of here now. Well, Pritchard says that the house is alive and that they're all going to die. Mm-hmm. Okay, you in the situation, what do you do, man? You're already in the house, you're locked down. Guy who owns the house, knows about the house, family's members have been died in the house, tells you, hey, we're all going to die. The house is alive.
Well, one, I would stay in groups and then also pick his brain. I know he said that the basement is a maze, but this house looks huge. So I wouldn't just go immediately to the basement. I'd be looking everywhere. One, I'd find a gun or some sort of weapon. You telling me this place is haunted? You best believe I'm finding something. And then you're with a room full of strangers. You don't know what these people are and who they are. You would think that you would protect yourself some way, somehow.
Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, throughout the episode today, we're going to have what we call Koala Hindsights. And you'll know by the sweet guitar riff you just heard. So, after the place gets locked down, all the cell phones don't work. There's no way to call for help. There's no way to get a signal outside. No radio, no nothing. And, which it's good because, in most horror movies, that always happens. Mm-hmm. And it's always like, most of these out in the woods, and you're like, well, why don't your shit work? There should be a tower somewhere, fucking Verizon's covered 99% of the nation or some crap like that, and you still can't get service and wherever. But this is a good excuse, man. The doors have all closed down. The place is completely locked in. And I guess signals just can't get out of this house, man. It is completely sealed tight.
You would think that there might be a home line, a security office with a computer, something.
Well, there might be. There might be a glimpse of hope that someone knows about. They're not saying. At least not right now. And as Pritchard is telling people about the house, no one believes Pritchard about the house at all. They keep looking for some reason as to why this is happening and how they can fix it.
No research.
Yeah.
None.
Like you said, no one has done research about the house. They don't care about it. It's all just, I don't know. There's an explanation for everything. I guess you could be skeptical. I don't know. If there's a guy I would take in at least 20% of what he's saying. I would still believe in what I believe in and be like, okay, there's got to be an explanation. But I'm not just completely disregarding this guy. He knows about something. He's really freaked out. Mm-hmm. He didn't seem crazy when he first got here, so why is he so freaked out now? So I'll be taking a little bit of his advice when he says the house is alive. Yeah,
but a lot of people don't believe into that. But once again, if they didn't their research, they would have known that this was an asylum. I agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm. They're not very smart.
Well, to the guest, though, if we see it from their perspective, this is Price playing games.
But I don't know if you caught this. They don't even know who Price is. Further on, they're like, I don't even know who this guy is. They're talking about Stephen Price. They don't even know that he does scary stuff.
Well, I would have assumed that he was well known.
You would think 15 years worth of. That's why I'm thinking that these people aren't even around here. Because if they don't even know that he does roller coasters, scary stuff, then they for real didn't do their research.
Yeah, and they look at Price, and he says it wasn't him who closed the house down. Mm-mm. And, as the audience, can you believe him? After seeing those pranks he pulled earlier, it's like, he might have been the one to do this. I'm not sure.
Especially with Evelyn saying, what are you doing? Like, how are you doing all this?
Mm-hmm. She knows Price, so she knows he's up to some stuff. Mm-hmm. But Pritchard says there's a main control switch in the basement, but you don't want to go down there.
It's a maze.
And Mrs. Price, she mentions the party favors. And so the whole group, they see this big casket, and there's smaller caskets inside of the big casket, and they all hold guns.
Yes, she specifically said that is the son of San Hunt of 94 party favors casket. So he's done this before.
All the guns are welded shut. The clips are welded shut, so they can't unload the bullets. But they can't say that if it's blanks or real bullets, which all you have to do is rack the slide, and one of them will pop out. So I guess these are all uneducated gun holders.
Which, for Eddie Baker, he was given the gun, and he looked like what do you want to call it? Like you said, rack it. Yeah. It looked like he cocked it back to get it ready. But you would think that you would, once again, double check it. And then also, literally no one but Eddie takes that gun. You in a house that you've been told it's a maze down there, and you're with strangers, and only one person took the gun? That don't make no sense. Hindsight, even if you aren't comfortable with a gun, you would think you would find something somewhere. A freaking chair or something to protect yourself with.
That's true. But although, from the audience standpoint, having everybody go down there with guns would kind of come off as comedic. Everybody's holding guns, pointing it every which way. No one knows what to do. And so Pritchett, Eddie, and Jen, they make their way to the basement to find the switch to open the house. And as they're going down there, somebody, I think Pritchett, clicks on the light and it starts showing these museum, I don't know, some skeleton horse guy combined with a horse, and freaks out Jen. And I feel like that's one of the parts that she would have freaked out and shot that thing if she had a gun. Luckily,
that is true.
Somebody more responsible has that gun. I want to point out, too, that the classic cobwebs are everywhere. I'm pretty sure at least 10% of the budget for this movie was spent on cobwebs.
And dust.
A piece of the building collapses and almost kills Jen, but Eddie saves her. That's 2 saves for this guy, man. He is Captain Save-A-Ho today. He is just grabbing bitches left and right.
Which I feel like they had a connection, a spark or something. Because he's been paying attention to her this whole entire time instead of the other white chick.
You think you like white chicks?
He likes her. Which, when they were describing their names, you can see Eddie kind of looking at her sideways, kind of like, I don't believe that you are the executive VP of Lathrop International Pictures.
Which is what Jen introduced herself as.
Jennifer Jensen. And he's just looking at her sideways. But I feel like they've had a connection this whole time.
Okay. Well, Price tells his assistants that the lockdown was a good idea. He gets back to the little control area that he has set up. And he's like, hey, man, that was a great idea. It was a good job. But the assistant says it wasn't him. He's like, that wasn't me. I don't know what that was. Price scares them in the basement. So he gets down back to the basement pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
So he must know some kind of secret holds in his house, some ways to get around that the other people don't, because in the last scene, we just seen Price talking to his assistant. Mm-hmm. Unless his headquarters is down there in the basement, you don't really show us where his headquarters is. So I guess...
But he's got to know a way around anyways to get to where the guy's at in the first place. But I did notice there is 3 people going down to the basement, but only one bring a flashlight. And then Eddie puts the gun already cocked back into his pants, pointing at his dick. You would think that that's not the correct place to put that.
Quick place to grab it. I mean, he ain't Cheddar Bob, so he ain't gonna shoot his dick off. But he just, he didn't have his finger on the trigger. But Jen does notice a place that they tried to seal off. Once they leave that area, you see these venom-like tendrils are seen coming from the house. But they continue on their tour of the house, kind of enter the electroshock therapy room, which is covered in what? More cobwebs. Yeah, dang, this place will just light up in fire, man. Cobwebs are flammable as hell. Just.
I want to know how long it took for them to place that all there.
I'm just glad they didn't go to Party City and get all this stuff. I'm glad it looks legit, but then I'm thinking like,
so much.
Yeah, there's so much spider webs here. Like, is there a lot of bug activity? Do spiders get a lot of food making these webs down here? Or are they just like, I gotta make a job. I gotta do a job. I gotta make this place look creepy. So I'm a spider. I gotta make these webs.
Because you think if it's locked up like that and there's nothing broken, like no windows, nothing, there wouldn't, like you said, there wouldn't be any bugs in there.
Mm-hmm. And Jen and Eddie walk out of the room almost immediately. And when they do, they lose Price and Pritchett. As if they went through like a different time or different universe or something. They're just gone.
Which I will say, I have to watch subtitles. I have bad hearing or I have to have it super loud. So I always have subtitles on with the movies. It was hilarious because the subtitle states Jennifer Jensen as her name is Sarah. So it gave whatever storyline that got going on, it does not match up. So I thought that was hilarious to me.
So it gave it away, little spoilers from the subtitles. Mm-hmm. Like she was saying, Jen is a VP, but she can rewire a building because Eddie and Jen, like I said, they got lost together and they're kind of flirting, kind of messing around. But she sees this like light out and she's able to crawl up in this little, I don't know, ventilation thing and just,
some sort of box area.
Yeah, and look at it and she's like, I can rewire this. Now hold on 1 second. So Eddie's already like,
you ain't no executive VP of nothing.
And he calls her out on it. And Jen's as she's leading the way, so she's talking and walking and explaining who she really is. But she turns around and Eddie's gone. There. Yeah, Eddie's gone.
He didn't hear one word she's saying, which is another hindsight. If you know that it is a maze down there, you would for sure make sure you are paying attention to the other people in your parties. They ain't acting like, oh, they ain't behind me. Okay, I'm not panicking. I'm not freaking out. I'm just going to keep going on my way. You don't think that they ain't going to find their way out? Like, they have no regard to any of the other people in their party.
Yeah, for sure. They she didn't really care. She was just like, I'm going to talk about myself. I like talking about myself. I'm going to talk.
I'm with a cute little handsome man. I'm going to flirt with him.
But what did she really want? That black D. Okay, that's what she wanted. And anyway, she kept on walking and she kept going. Talking about herself. And then she turned around and noticed he's gone finally. So she starts looking for him. Well, she sees him walk off in this room. And she flashes a light on him right in his damn eyes. Kind of rude. But she's like, hey buddy, it's you, Eddie, what's going on? And he just looks at her. And
I think they did good on this scene with the eyes.
Yeah, it's something reflecting in his eyes, like kind of like a dog at night. He just walks off in this room, and what does she do?
She follows him like a dumb bitch.
She follows him right up in that room. She thinks she sees Eddie, and she notices he's a little off, or he seems a little off. And he slowly walks into this room where Jen follows him. And she sees something moving very fast. Gets closer. Like, the creepiness in this scene, though, it was kind of horrific there. It kind of got me here because that fast moving, whenever you can't see, it's like scrambling. You know, somebody waving their arms in their head real fast. But this thing is like, it's transforming or something. It's freaking out or something. It's trying to find a shape or an image. And then she looks again, it's gone. So I think that in a lot of horror movies is a good thing because it does have a fear factor to it, that freakiness, that fast movingness. But she sees Eddie. He's about to jump off in this, I don't know, tub of goo, oil, blood.
It looks red. You can see it's red because you can see on the edge, but...
And he just drops off in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just drops off in there, disappears. She freaks out, starts to go try to help him out. And she can see his hand, like, wanting for help. So she tries to reach in there, and as she does, this thing starts to try to pull her in.
Which I will say, she runs up to the container pretty quickly, but then she's just standing there like, Eddie! Like, screaming his name. Okay, you see him underneath the water. You've gone this far to potentially help him and save him, but you just standing there, potentially let him drown, and then you put your arms in it? Which I will say, this scene, she is wearing a black jacket and a red shirt. And I will explain why that matters a little bit later on.
Okay. Well, as she's trying to save Eddie, Eddie comes through the door and is like, hey, what are you doing? And she looks up and like, oh, shit, something's got me. It starts trying to pull her in. So Eddie comes and saves her by pulling her out, which that's 3 saves today, Eddie has had. So he's got some good karma building up.
He's a nice gentleman.
Indeed.
Even though he wants to get in her pants.
And so they end up making it back to the rest of them in the lobby area, the first area, or at least by the bar. And this is where they're telling everybody about what happened. And Pritchard talks about letting the darkness out of the house. Donald thinks Pritchard is crazy. Melissa is off by herself, which is the one with the camera. She was the one filming everything. And now she's going on a tour by herself, filming the house's insides.
Which is so stupid.
Which, I don't know, I kind of understand her lack of fear. And it's because maybe she knew Price and what he does and just $1 million. So she's going to go around and film this. And she wants to be famous anyway because she was talking about having some talk show. So this will give her plenty of content to talk about later on.
Well, she is a celebrity. And before, they were talking about how she's trying to fuck her way potentially back into being a celebrity. So she is just trying to do anything and everything to get back into that celebrity role. So I don't think she even cares about potentially danger. All she's thinking about is, hey, I'm going to get some good stuff and I'm going to be famous again.
Listen, if I was the boss, let me just tell you, she'd get a job, okay?
But with this scene here, the girl that was with the jacket, what's her name? Jennifer, whose her real name is Sarah. She ended up just coming up, taking her jacket off. But you would think if your whole half body is into this pool of whatever it was, she would be soaking wet. Her whole front would be wet. But she just got only like a couple little specks of blood on her face.
No,
So I feel like they
just
could have
the
done better.
arms. I think just the arms got wet. I mean, she just had her arms in there.
But you in it for several seconds, probably a good, maybe even a minute or two with a fight. But your red sleeve shirt isn't even wet at all. Your
How you know
hand,
the shirt
you've
was red?
seen it.
Blood was red.
You would see the wetness. Come on now.
Okay, you might have a point there, but let's go back to Melissa down in the basement area where we had just seen that horse man hybrid statue thing, whatever it was. She's down there just filming it, having a good time, getting some good content here. This is some good stuff she could talk about on her show later on.
All I can say is she's a dumb bitch. She dumb.
All right, well, obviously we got some hatred for Melissa here.
She's so dumb. She's just going off on her own. No flashlight, no partner, not even letting anybody know, hey, I'm going to go explore.
As she's doing so, she's looking through the little screen on her camera, and she walks into one room, and I guess it was the room where the doctor performed most of his surgeries, because she's in the camera, she can see the doctor performing the surgery, but in real life, there's nothing there. And so as she just starts to continue to watch this thing, I guess she's interested in seeing what's happening on her camera, and as she does, the doctor stops. The nurses stop. They all look up, and they look at her.
And she's still just standing there.
Yeah, she is still standing there, but she feels a presence behind her. And this is weird because there's something standing off in the distance. There's something real scary. I don't know what it is. It's standing off in the distance, and it runs up to her real fast, and we get a real good look at it. And I didn't like this because it was too soon to see what it was. This is a horror movie. The mystery is supposed to be there. You don't want to know what it is that's coming after you. You don't know what it can do. And this thing looked like it didn't have eyes. Maybe it was
large, super large head. Like, it don't look like a regular human.
Yeah, maybe
skull.
It was some kind of, I don't know, nuclear baby that had been put into the insane asylum that the doctor had been putting experiments on by taking his eyes out or whatever. It just runs up on her and just starts screaming at her, and she starts seeing these images. And maybe it's a bunch of images of the inmates there or patients there that she had seen and the tortures that they had to go through. But yeah, I didn't like getting to see it. I wish something would have happened to her and we wouldn't have known what it was.
Kept him in the distance, like at the very beginning of the scene.
Yeah, and the group hears the scream, and so they go down there to find her, and they only find her camera and a trail of a lot of blood. They follow the trail, and it leads to the ceiling into the house somehow.
Which they all still standing and just staring at the floor like, okay, it ends here. You ain't... The only one person that does that is Sarah. Like, okay, it ends here. Let's look around to see where else is it at. So that just didn't... They ain't putting two and two together. And they don't seem very smart people.
No. And then we see the group talking about what happened while Pritchett is just, kind of nonchalant about it. And I guess it pisses Eddie off because he slaps a glass out of his hand. And that must have been one hell of a slap, because as soon as he did, that thing shattered into pieces. It didn't hit nothing. It just turned into shattered glass.
Which I think that's also another unnecessary hurt. You didn't see nothing blood or anything, but my head, okay, it's glass. He had to get harmed from that. But this is where everyone should be like, okay, this is real. We need to figure a way to get the fuck out of here. We need to believe what he is saying. Something fucking happened. But I feel like still nobody truly still believes any of it. They still think that someone else harmed her.
Yeah.
I will say, the dumb bitch died first, though.
Damn. There's still some kind of, there's some kind of resentment towards Melissa. I don't know what it is between y'all two, but there's something there. But the group ends up watching Melissa's camera, and it shows her being killed. You don't really actually see her being killed, but something attacks her, and she drops the camera, and she's getting drug away.
Which I'm curious to know, because it was a large pool of blood, but you didn't see what her injuries were. So I do want to know what happened, ghost-wise, to cause that much blood.
Well, I guess you ain't gonna figure it out. But Mrs. Price assumes it's still a trick and wants to know how Mr. Price did it. But Price, he did give everyone guns, and the clips were welded shut.
I guess nobody believed that it wasn't full of anything.
Yeah, they didn't know it was anything, so Evelyn takes a gun and she fires it at one of the glasses.
Which I will say, that gun was in a tiny, tiny bag. They should have picked a different bag for her.
A different bag?
Yeah, her purse, where she pulled it out, It was so tiny. There's no way that that gun truly would have fit in there and people wouldn't have seen that.
Well, we do see here that it is live rounds because she shot it at one of the empty glasses, and I guess she's just tired. So she says, I'm going to bed. And if any one of you so as much as peep in the keyhole, I'm going to shoot you in the face. That's pretty much what she says. So she's going up to go to bed. I guess she still don't want to be a part of Price's game. She thinks it's still a game. So she can go to sleep, collect her $1 million, and be out the next day, is what she assumes. But Eddie passes a gun to Jen and
He
Sarah.
just passes the gun. He tosses the gun.
Yeah, he does toss a live
He
gun.
knows. Now they know that it is a live gun. And he's just tossing this through the air. Why couldn't he just walk that to her? And then why couldn't they just all go to the caskets and get some more guns? I noticed that. I was like, that is
Yeah, there
not
were
smart.
more guns, and nobody would have grabbed them. But he does say the gun is as good as the $1 million right now. But if you're dead, nothing's as good. I don't know what that means because he just said it weird in a weird way.
To set the scene up like that, for him to be the only person like zoomed in on him and saying something weird like that, it is.
Yeah, he just tossed the gun and was like, "This gun's as good as $1 million." Well, you just threw $1 million at a girl. Like,
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Potentially her landing it on the trigger and shooting herself or some damn body or even him.
Well, Price goes to the camera room and asks his assistant, "Hey, how did you do that?" And he turns him around and, well, he's dead.
His whole face is gone.
Yeah, somebody scooped out his face with a big spoon.
Ugh. Which I will say, everybody's just going off on their own again. You know that somebody has died, but everybody's just like, I'm gonna go on.
See, again, man, the audience, the people, they don't really know for sure that Melissa is dead. She could have been taken by the staff or assistance crew or whatever. You don't know with Mr. Price. He's got a lot of money. He can hire a bunch of people just to take you out and be like, hey, you're eliminated. You got to go home.
That's true, because that could be fake blood. Because in my head, I'm like, that's a large amount of blood.
The only way to test it, you got to put your finger on it and lick it.
Ew. I guess if it does taste coppery.
That's real blood. Well, Price, like I said, he's in the camera room, the main master control room, and he's looking at the cameras, and he sees some guy with a cleaver. And I assume he's going for his wife, because after he looks at the guy with a cleaver, he looks at his wife, and he's like, I'm going to get you son of a bitch. And this weird, I don't know, I feel like...
I think it's more of like a jig.
Inappropriate for this film. This music starts hitting, man. It's really bumping, and I'm like, okay, let's get it. Let's and they're going around looking for Price is looking for this guy with a cleaver, I guess.
It was weird because he started dancing, doing a little jig.
Does he leave to save her? Is that what he's leaving for?
Which, I mean, up until this point, he's hated her, and kind of, I got the feel that he wouldn't care if she's dead.
And the lights start to flicker and freak out. And this weird, like I said, this weird montage goes on, and then just people just going around the house, but looking around, going for nothing. And then they end up hearing, just electrical sounds, and they find Mrs. Price is being electrocuted on this table.
Which I will state, you see them, since they all separated, they all met in the basement to go get her. But how did they know to meet in the basement? Like, how did they know all this noise and lights came from the basement? Because they were all separated, so they all had that same thought of, hey, oh crap, this is happening in the basement. We gotta hurry up and go down to the basement. So that was kind of weird to me.
Well, once they end up, kind of stopping the electrocution of Mrs. Price on the table, blood comes out of her mouth, and Donald checks her. He's a medical
MD.
He's an MD. He's a doctor. So he's checking her, and he's telling Mr. Price, he's dead. And then he's like, she isn't dead. She's just got to get her heart pumping again.
Which, I mean, okay, if he's a doctor, he didn't do no CPR. He didn't do nothing. He just was like, oh, shit, she's dead. So I feel like this is kind of like, he didn't try. Like, he didn't try anything at all.
And Price is mourning her like...
He cares.
Yeah, like he really loved her. Like he really missed her or something. I don't understand this.
Maybe he thinks she's playing and he just wants to act and, like, set the scene.
I don't know, because he lashes out right after this and starts blaming the others for killing his wife. He then pulls a gun on all of them. And Eddie, once again, saves another person by taking Price.
Which I think what happened though before was he was freaking out because Watson was blaming the house, and he's like, "No, the house didn't do anything. There's only people in this house, one of y'all." So I think that if he didn't mention about the house, I don't think he would have freaked out as much as he did.
Well, they end up taking Price and putting him in this psychomatic machine.
I don't know why. This seems so fucked up. Why would they? I get it. They like think that he's freaking out and needs to be. But how many rooms are in this house that could easily lock? But then you gonna put him in this chamber?
I mean, it might have been the closest thing next to him. That could have been just right out of that room there and put him in there. But this machine they were talking about earlier, it was said to make sane men go mad and then mad people sane. And so they put him in there, and Donald's the one in charge of watching him. Donald, he turns the machine on while Price is in the chamber.
This is where I knew he had to have known Price in some way, some fashion. Because if you don't know somebody, you want to just turn the machine on. Even though he thinks that, oh crap, he's going to kill us because he has the gun. Let's put him in the chamber so he's away from people. But I feel like a villain or a vindictive person has such hatred for somebody. That's when they would turn it on. So I feel like that kind of, I don't think gave something away, but you're like, ooh, he knows him some way, somehow.
Yeah, he gets, that machine turns on and he tries to put these goggles on to save himself, I guess, for whatever's about to happen, because it is happening for sure. But we see Eddie and Sarah now. She was Jen. She's Sarah now. Which
it's hilarious because nobody knows that she is Sarah. And then they start saying her name.
Yeah, that is weird because she didn't announce that to anybody. But now they're cool with just calling her Sarah.
Yeah.
Or where'd that come from? Explain how they know that. Is there mics on everybody? When she was telling the story earlier? But yeah, they find the doctor's office. But we see Price, man. He is still in this machine. He is freaking out. He's seeing the doctor who was performing all those surgeries bouncing a ball and just laughing at him, going through his head, freaking out. And he starts seeing like what happened back in the day, back in the past.
Which I will say, hindsight on this, if someone pushed me into the chamber, I would just lay on the floor, close my eyes, plug my ears, not try still standing up.
Well, it might work. I don't know. I mean, the fetal position may be what they expected, so they made this chamber just for that.
I guess.
But we go back into the past, where Mr. Price is seeing a bunch of crazy shit. You know, he's
third time seeing some titties.
Yeah, he was in the water, and then he's seeing these doctors perform crazy stuff on people. Then we got the scene of selective color, where the only thing that is in color is this lady's red lipstick. And Price is in the position of one of these patients. And he's got this metal thing around his head, and then they take it off, and they put this, I don't know, plastic around his head, rubber or something, and they wrap it with metal, and then put him underwater. I guess they used to drown people.
I don't know what they, like, I don't get this. Because if you were testing them or something, you wouldn't put them underneath the water like that. That you're trying to kill somebody. But I will say, this is another scene where you see some more titties. You see titties 4 times.
Wow. And our count is up to 4. We have another pair of titties. And he's swimming through this water, and more selective color scene. Nothing is in color except for this lady in the water with him. And she just starts throwing up this blood. Just bleh. And blood just starts leaking out of her mouth, and that's the only thing you can see is in color. And it's flashing, and there's lights and stuff. And then we see the lady again, and her hair's in front of her face, but then it gets out of her face, and she has no eyes, just this huge gaping mouth. And I guess these are the thoughts of an insane person.
Maybe.
Yeah, and we go back to, he's just having all these random insane thoughts. This lady's bouncing the ball bounces back up, but it's his head. And it's his wife holding his head. He's freaking out. He's going crazy.
Which I do wonder, is it the insane asylum people, like the crazies? I feel like the people who work at a insane asylum, are they a little bit crazy too? Because they just, how can you hear people scream all the time and not be a little psychotic yourself?
Well, there might be, I think there is some kind of limit to your crazy. Like, these people are into it, but they're into it in just a subtle way that it doesn't appear to be crazy. Like, I can work here as long as I say I don't like it, it's fine. Yeah, you know, it's like a UFC fighter. I don't like hurting people. but you go out there and beat the shit out of people all the time. Yeah, I got to do it. It's my job.
You're getting paid to do that. You're enjoying it.
Yeah. But we go back to Sarah and Eddie, and they're researching. I guess they're finding out a bunch of information about the place through the doctor's office, and they end up finding out, or the audience end up finding out, that every person who was invited had something to do or related to someone who had something to do with the incident that happened in the house.
Which I kept pausing, and I got all the names that was on the picture. That's when they realized how people were the same. It's class of 1931. The head nurse was Ruthie Ann Stockard. The electroshock person was Aldous Jensen. The pathologist
Jensen?
was... Yep.
That was related to the Mrs. Price?
No, Jensen is
her real name.
Jennifer Jensen.
Okay, so
which
Jen.
is technically Sarah, so that was a little weird. And then Stockard, which is Evelyn Price. Her maiden name is Stockard.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And then the pathologist is Franklin Baker, which is Eddie Baker.
Okay,
person.
the black guy.
Yep. And then Thomas Stephen Price, which is Stephen Price. And then Jasper Marr, which I don't know where the Marr came from. Oh, nope, I take that back. Melissa Marr, the dumb bitch that died first. The celebrity.
Okay, you hate her.
She's just so dumb. Like, she's definitely one of those dumb
I'll tell you what.
white blonde chicks that you would think that would be a little smarter, but I know it's not. But those are the 5 that did not die.
Well, they're still wondering. Oh, Eddie is wondering why Blackburn's name isn't on the list. Oh, Donald Blackburn.
Question.
And that's what we then see is Blackburn making his way back into Evelyn's body. Mrs.
Where
Price.
she's laid out, supposedly dead.
Yes, and this is a weird little scene here because Blackburn goes up to the body and, it's just...
I know who's going to try to fuck her.
He's kind of examining it, and he starts rubbing his fingers all the way down her and inside her. Okay, listen, he is fingering her up. He wore her like a Super Bowl ring. You know what I'm saying? But
what is that called? Necrophilia? Someone who likes fucking a corpse?
I thought you called it a glove because he was wearing her. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's so disgusting though because he was making out with some dead lips. But he wiped the blood off first. But there was still blood. So he's just like lapping up her bloody lips.
I mean, if it was a fake death or whatever it was, then... I mean, because we soon find out that he injects her with something.
Atropine?
Yes. And
subtitles. Gotta have some subtitles.
And she wakes up.
Which I will say, where did he put the atropine at? Because he injected it, I don't know, down by her vagina. Like, it looks that. But atropine, you would think. So I used to work at a vet. So whenever a dog passed away and it was like right then and there, we would start CPR, get all the drugs that we needed to do, get the atropine, and inject it in a vein or in the heart if the vet is good enough to be able to do that. So the Blackburn just injected her with, I don't know, down below somewhere. Like, they did not do their research.
Well, I mean, he did in the thigh. Ain't there like a big vein in your leg somewhere?
You would think that you would do closer to the heart or something.
I mean, it'll get there eventually.
And she just immediately pops up like, oh, I got one little injection.
She wakes up and she starts kissing him back. And we find out that it was all a plan to kill Price. Blackburn and Evelyn have a plan to frame one of the guests for the murder of Price. Evelyn ends up stabbing Donald.
I don't know. So, did she get possessed by a ghost? Because she seemed kind of a little weird. Or was she just so overtaken about wanting Price's money that she's like, fuck the dude that I've been fucking. I'm going to kill him and set it up. But it doesn't make sense because she don't have gloves on. So her fingerprints would be on the scalpel that she stabbed him with.
Yeah, but everybody believes she's dead. So if she makes it out of here unnoticed, then everybody still thinks she's dead.
But that still don't make no sense because there's no other fingerprints on the scalpel but her own.
What was the whole plan anyway, her plan? Like, they needed a body to find... They
needed a body to be able to get people freak out enough to be able to blame Price, the person who brought them all here, to freak them out enough to be able to, like, you are to blame. I'm just going to kill you because I'm so scared.
And then so they needed that body, and she says, well, hear me out. Here's my plan. and she just stabs him.
That's where, because you see in his eyes when he's dying, it seems like she's possessed. So was she possessed before she murdered him? Or did the house be like, oh, damn, this bitch just, like, greedy as hell, and I'm gonna, like, murdered him. I'm gonna possess her because she's so evil, too.
I'm not sure. All I know is she stabbed the hell out of him.
That's true.
But we end up back at the group, and Sarah and Eddie have a plan to get out. And she gives an ultimatum: "Hey, you gonna come with us, or you gonna wait for Blackburn?" And Pritchard says, "Blackburn's dead." Like that? How do you know?
How do you even know? Just because this is where, but he stayed at the chamber, so you would think he would know that he's just still guarding the chamber.
Well, with Pritchard's way of thinking, like if you're alone by yourself, you're dead.
So why isn't he being like, hey, no one needs to be alone. We all need to stick together to have the best chances. And then he just goes out and wanders himself.
He doesn't wander himself, but he might have thought, hey, that if you're alone, you're dead. And he might have, I could have sworn he might have mentioned that earlier. Hey, we need to stick together, or don't do something at all. We're all going to die. He has that downplaying hope, like, oh, we're going to die.
I guess because he's so negative, nobody's like, we are in a crappy situation. We need more positivity. Let's not listen to him.
Well, the three of them, they end up going looking for Blackburn and find a lot of blood. They end up finding Blackburn's head in the psycho chamber where Mr. Price was. And they believe it is Price who is the one who killed Blackburn.
Which that doesn't make sense because they seen Price be put inside the chamber. They don't know that it was on, so they can't think that he's like incapable of getting out. But there's no way of getting out of the chamber. So how do they automatically just assume that it was Price?
Well, the only person to watch it was Donald, and he could have had compassion and just let Price out, and Price fucked him up. Which we know didn't happen, but Evelyn's plan is working as it should, because they're framing Price for the murder of Donald, Which,
side note, how in the hell is Evelyn Price, able to carry a dead, grown male body? I mean, yes, the head was cut off, but you still got a body to pull to however far away. She don't look that strong to be able to do that.
I mean, just because she's a woman doesn't mean she's weak, okay?
That's why I'm like, did she possess? Because if she's possessed, then that's a little bit more, not realistic, but to me makes a little bit more sense.
True. Well, Sarah ends up searching for Price on her own.
Which is so stupid, in my opinion. Like, hindsight, don't go towards the killer.
Why didn't the other two follow her? What were they looking for? But she ends up hearing Melissa's voice, and she follows it to Mr. Price. And he's begging for help, but she doesn't believe him, and she's got the gun, and she ends up shooting him.
Which I will say, Melissa was calling Sarah's name.
That is weird. How did well, I guess the ghost could know with psychic thoughts or not, if you want to explain it that way. The ghosts really know who you really are?
Maybe, but I feel like that's just inconsistency either on the writer's end or they think that just because she explained herself when nobody was around, like nobody's going to catch that.
I guess so, by God. Because she ends up shooting old Price and she kills him.
How many times did she shoot?
She emptied that clip into his ass.
And it was all like chest shots. You would think if she's shooting, potentially get somewhere else beyond the chest.
No, she's an assassin. Well, Eddie and Pritchard hear the shots and they run to her. And once they get her, calm her down and leave, Evelyn shows up and talks to Mr. Price's dead body and says it could have been a simpler divorce. And that she always loved his money.
Never him, because she said he was nerdy or geeky or something like that. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, what did you bring to the table? Because you seem like you don't have a job and you just married to a geek that gave you a lot of fucking money.
She
should be appreciative.
Okay.
That ain't gonna that is not enough. Because they obviously hate each other. So she ain't bringing sex. She ain't giving him head. Like, she ain't giving him a nut. Nothing. So what is she bringing to the table? Like, it don't make no sense to me.
Well, it makes plenty of sense to me. But I'm just saying. Well,
looks ain't gonna get you far.
He ends up waking up. And he tells her that he knew about the plan all along. And this is a bulletproof bitch.
Yep. He's like, I'm Stephen goddamn Price. Subtitles. Subtitles.
Yeah, he's the motherfucking man. So he knew about their plan all along. So he starts to try and kill her, but ends up throwing her through a seal wall that we saw earlier with those venom tendrils, and something starts coming out after her. Something black. Looks like the souls from the building.
Up.
Yeah, it looked like the souls of the building. He was trying to, I don't know, maybe he got concerned for her. Maybe he wasn't really going to go through with it.
Maybe?
But after he had thrown her through there and seen that thing coming after her, he was like, get up, get up, get up.
And she's like, are you doing this, Steven? Like, Steven. Like, she still believed up to this point that this whole house was him.
And he is super shocked because it was not him.
Nope.
And whatever he just broke open started just leaking out. This shadowy venom monster thing just started leaking out and on its way.
I'm sorry, this thing looks like a butterfly vagina looking thing. They could have done better.
It does remind me of what are those, oh god dang it, I forget the name now. It's the ink spot test in a psychiatric ward. Like, what do you see now? And it's just like ink thrown on a thing. I'm sorry everybody, I forget the name of it, but I know you're killing me. You're yelling at me right now.
Ink
It's this,
splotches?
it's this. No, it's a certain test, like some kind of test. But that's what it looks like, and it's slowly coming out after Mr. Price now, Steven, and it's got Evelyn's voice now, and it's like, come on, join us, join us, you can join us.
Which he did see Melissa's body all chopped up, and this is the 5th time seeing some titties, because she's butt-ass naked.
You hear that? Number 5 pair of titties, guys. That's right, 5 pair of titties. Well, it starts chasing after his ass, and I guess we can assume that this is, I don't know, some kind of collaboration of all the souls lost in this building, and they want more souls.
I just don't understand why this house is so mad. Like, it didn't explain that. Like, why is this house wanting to kill everybody?
Well, I mean, I guess the way the people died here was really, not a good thing. They all burned to death, and they were already mad anyway. So their insanity combined with hatred probably for people who put them in there, and then the way they were living, the way they were treated, the doctors themselves performing non-sedation surgeries on people. So yeah, there's a lot of fear and hatred built inside this building after all those deaths. But the thing ends up chasing after Mr. Price. It says that everyone that was responsible for the house has to die, and it's his turn. And so it ends up grabbing old Pritchard.
Watson Pritchard.
Yeah, while it's chasing Price, and grabs Pritchard instead. But I guess
he was beating on that door. Sorry for interrupting, but he was beating on that door. I'm sorry. If you know you're about to die, break your shoulder to get that damn door down.
Yeah, he was knocking on the door trying to get out, and Pritchard ends up opening it, and
that's how he got taken.
That's how Pritchard gets taken, but Price ends up running through the door, ends up saving himself from this shadow monster.
Which I guess Eddie and Sarah, because they were kind of freaked out at the end of the hallway. I guess, because I had a note here saying, why are they not running? But then in my head, I'm like, wait, no. They're seeing somebody that she ended up shooting dead. So I get why they paused, but I feel like they paused a little too long. He kept telling them to run.
Yeah, Price explains to him that Pritchard was right, and they need to get to the attic. The house is turning some kind of monster right now. Like the hallways are turning into a big mouth and teeth and crap, and the shadow monster is just filling up the area. Price gets one of the blast shields open from the attic, and they make a run for it.
I know there's something here. Eddie has a brown jacket, and he's wearing, I don't know, a gray striped shirt. And another scene a little bit later on, he don't got his brown jacket anymore, and they're still running in that same hallway. So there's like an inconsistency there too.
Yeah, they weren't too careful about these things here. Not in this movie, at least. But they make a run for it. They get to the attic, and the shadow monster is creeping and goes for Sarah, while Price ends up saving her. He ends up becoming kind of a good guy, because he didn't have to go save Sarah. He could have just got out of the building.
No, because he did come. Price did, because for some reason they were so far behind Price. Price was already in the attic, like messing with stuff trying to get there. And then he comes downstairs to try and find them, to be like, get to the attic. And then they all went to the attic, and then that's when Price ended up saving. But I find it hilarious because he was trying so hard to open like the pulley system, and he got a pipe trying to break or hit it open or something, and all he does is throw it, and it just hits perfectly to open the window. I'm like, dang, you could do a little bit better than that.
It starts to make its way to Sarah and Eddie. It starts to make its way to Eddie and Sarah. But Eddie pushes Sarah out, and he end up closed in. So
he better get some good ass sex right there, because
this is the 5th time he saved somebody in this movie.
Like probably 2 or 3 times saving Sarah herself.
And
he could have went out and saved himself, and she could have gone out on her own.
Mm-hmm. And the Shadow Monster is talking to Eddie now. It's like, you deserve to be with us. You're the next patient, Mr. Baker. But we end up seeing that old Pritchard in the afterlife still has a voice or a way of his own of saving Eddie. He lifts up the pulley system, opens the blast door, and Eddie's able to get out.
Which I wonder if this is because maybe he was a good person, because he was taken into the Shadow Monster that you're saying. But Evelyn, she was taken in, but you only seen her face in the monster. So she wasn't able to come out and be a ghost like him. So I wonder if it's due to him potentially being a good person.
Well, I've also read up that Eddie was adopted. He wasn't a part of the family that... He's not actually related to the family that was related to the incident that happened.
Correct. That is true.
Yeah, so I figured that maybe that's why the thing didn't, pounce on him so quickly. And as they're both outside on the top of this building, an envelope slides under the shield. And, they're thinking like, oh man, so much for getting paid. But inside is the $1 million each they were promised.
Which, let me go back to my notes, because there was rules that if someone survived, then they would get the other people's money that did not survive.
There's a lot more checks.
Yep. So it says the rules: they must spend the whole night in the house. If any of them bailed before the night or they died, their money will be split between the remaining guests. So there was 4 or 5 of them. So they didn't just get $1 million. They got multiple $1 million.
Wow. So they're actually relieved, and they're laughing as they're on the top of this building up here.
How the fuck they gonna get down?
Yeah. I don't know. I do not know how they're gonna get down, because there's no ladders, nothing out the top. But the show ends up fading to black as the credits roll. Which
I have another hindsight real quick, because you seen it at the end. They opened the envelope, they pulled out all of them fucking checks, and they just the wind's blowing, because you see them moving. You see that these are $1 million checks. Why the fuck do you still have them out in the wind? I'm clumsy, so you best believe some way, somehow, that shit's just gonna fly off. I would not be doing that. I would have just peeked in it, seen it, and be like, okay, I'm gonna put this inside my pants because I went through hell. I'm making sure I get my money.
And that is it for House on Haunted Hill.
And then also, if they find out that Price is dead and he gives a check and he signs it before he died, how are they going to be able to cash out this check knowing, if he's dead?
Is that something that happens? Like, if you die, you can't cash a check?
You would, I don't know. You would think that'd be questionable since he's so rich.
He got money in the account, though.
I guess.
I do have a couple facts. I didn't find much about this one, but one fact we had already discussed, that the Terra Incognita roller coaster at Price's amusement park that was in the beginning was actually Incredible Hulk coaster at Universal Islands of Adventure in Orlando. You got a fact for me?
Yes. So the director and the producer, they worked together on the film's screenplay for 1.5 years.
That's a long time.
Yes, and I feel like they could have, done a little bit better if they took that fucking long.
I only have one other fact, and that is that the director wanted to cast Angelina Jolie in, I don't know what role, but he wanted her in one of the roles for...
Probably Evelyn Price would make the most sense.
I mean, no, Angelina Jolie was young and fine back then. She could have been the main savior actress, but I guess he couldn't afford her, so
I guess not.
They didn't go with her.
My other fact is, I'm going to butcher this name, but Evelyn Price, the actor, yep, she did the stunt where the glass ceiling breaks herself. She had no stunt. And then I have an alternate ending that I was finding. Like you said, not a lot of facts. So I was able to find an alternate ending where Price dies from the darkness on top of the staircase instead of Pritchett. And then Eddie dies saving Sarah instead of Price. Pritchett and Sarah make it outside to be found by the cleaning crew, and then the movie ends with the television report on the events.
Oh, yeah, that'd have been whack.
Which I will say, a lot of the older movies, like horror movies, most of the time the black person dies. So this is a kind of refreshing to see black guy stayed alive, saved multiple people, and stayed alive the whole time. He survived.
The grizzly survived. That's all.
Yeah. We did miss one thing, though.
Oh,
So there is the after end credits at the 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 11 seconds. There's you see what happens to Steve, Price, and Evelyn. So you see it kind of at the beginning scene where all the crazies was killing everybody. But instead of like the doctors and nurses, it is Mr. Price and Evelyn on the gurneys instead of the doctors and the nurse.
Wow.
So you see them, unfortunately, I guess, being tortured for the rest of their ghost life, eternity.
Dang, that is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, that would suck.
And we'll be back next month with Dragon Ball Evolution review with Grizzly and Polar. They'll be back in the studio. All right, and now we're going to do a last little portion of our podcast for the horror hour, or whatever we're going to call this thing. We're going to do the Koala Kill Count. And this part, we just talk about how each character that did die, we talk about how they died, and, you know, what will we do in their situations, and what would we rather have? Which is our favorite death, and how would we want to go? Koala?
Okay, so my list starts off with Melissa Marr. She was attacked. We don't know exactly how she died. We just know that she was taken through the wall. Don't know if she did a lot of screaming, so we don't know if that was a pleasant death or not. We got Evelyn Price, which she's technically the second and the fourth death. So the second one is where she faked her death, which through the electroshock. And then for the fourth death, she was pulled into the shadow monster looking darkness. The third one was the Donald Blackburn, which he was stabbed by the scalpel by Evelyn Price and ended up getting his head cut off and staged. And then Watson Pritchett was the fifth one. He was also sucked into the darkness. And then the last and final one was Stephen Price. He heroically pushed Sarah out of the way and got absorbed by the darkness. He was a little different. He ended up turning to dust stone and was blown away.
How about that?
I felt like I said heroically wrong, though.
So which one would you choose out of these deaths if you had to go one way? Which one would it be?
None of them seemed pleasant. I would definitely not do the electric shock. It seems like she was getting shocked for a while. So I'd probably do the whole sucked into the darkness. Watson Pritchett seems to be the less hurtful of them all.
Less painful?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that one too, because everything else is just terrible.
Yeah.
You don't know what happened to Melissa, but it sounded pretty painful, whatever happened to her.
Ton of blood.
Yeah, I don't want to get stabbed to death and have my head cut off, which I know he didn't feel the head cutting off part, but he got stabbed to death.
Yeah, by his lover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was also painful and hurtful. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go same.
How would you think you would rate this movie?
I think that they did a good job at, getting these people together. I like the story of how they all come together. I like that the house is actually haunted. There's some supernatural stuff going on in here. But the CGI was kind of whack. There was some inconsistencies. And I don't know, some of the people they chose to act, like Pritchett, man, I felt like they could have had somebody else better in that position. The story overall was okay story. I just felt like they could have executed it a lot better.
I think the name, the thing that got me the most was just like the inconsistency. Like with Jennifer, and then later on they were all calling her Sarah, even though none of them heard her say her name was Sarah. I think that one really tripped me up the most. But I think with the time, you still got to see it as 1999, right?
Yeah.
And the CGI at that time, I think it did decent. It could have done a lot better nowadays. But I do wish we would have seen the first one to compare it, how they truly were against each other.
Okay. You done?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay. I'm trying to get some words in here a little bit. I would say that House on Haunted Hill, it's an okay one. I'm going to say it's an okay one. I can't say it's a good one, but I'm going to say it's an okay one. If you get a chance to see it, check it out. If you have to pay for it, don't. But, if you get a chance, just check it out. So I would say it's okay one.
Would you ever rewatch it?
I mean, if it's Halloween and it's on and I'm flicking through the horror movies and it's there, then yeah, I'd probably watch it. But
you wouldn't add it to our Halloween list to watch every year.
It most definitely would not make the top 10 list of anybody's list. It shouldn't, at least. But yeah, I'd say it's an okay one. How would you give this one? What would you rate it?
I think I'm pretty similar with you, but I don't know. I enjoyed the story, and I do enjoy finding the inconsistencies because that makes me laugh. I think I would watch it every few years, just be kind of like, I watched this. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I would definitely not add that to our list. I think for the time it was made in, I think it was pretty decent. I think maybe 3 out of 5.
Okay, well, we don't really do 3 out of 5s here.
Okay, well, I just wanted to
It's either a good one, which is what we recommend, kind of our little source here. It's an okay one. It was a bad one.
I don't like that. It wasn't good to recommend, but it wasn't bad, so I guess I'm stuck with okay.
Okay. So it was an okay one from Koala. That's her rating on it. All right, guys. I think that's going to be all for us, guys. This has been the review of House on Haunted Hill. And make sure to like and subscribe. Also, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And thank you guys for listening. We have been We Real Reels. Koala?
Bye. Yep.
Well, that is it, guys, for We Real Reels, the horror hour. We'll figure out a name for this thing, let me tell you. But that is it for us today. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, rate and review on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you listen or get podcasts. Thank you for listening, guys. We have been We Real Reels, and we are out.
Bye.
Bye, Koala.